More of the Tim Hudak Show on the Bell Talk Radio Network.
You gotta be authentic. That's what they tell me. That's what they tell politicians. That's what they tell industry associations. Authenticity, the buzzword of 2017. A recent study called the Authentic 100. I recommend you have a look at it. Authentic 100 by Cohn&wolfe says that brand authenticity is not just a buzzword. It is a very specific and quantifiable measurement that companies should look into and address if they want to protect their market position and grow. They surveyed 15,000 consumers across 15 different markets, including Canada. So to tell us the results of that is David Gordon. David is a managing partner at Cohn&wolfe Toronto, the global communications company that builds brands and corporate reputations, an uncompromising commitment to creativity. David Gordon, welcome to the Tim Hudak Show.
Hey, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us. Okay, what off the top? What is authenticity anyway?
So, here's the thing. When we talk to people about brands, what comes to mind most is recognizability. Do I know them? Can I name them? And that's obviously the big starting point for any brand. You want to be known and recognized. But yeah, when you peel the skin back a layer, you have a look a little deeper. Question is, are you authentic as a brand? I know who you are, but what do I think of you? And that's what the study looks at. What do people think of brands?
Okay, and if I think of the brand, that's going to what? Cause me to more likely to buy their product, their service? Like, why is it actually important?
Yeah, well, it's a variety of things, but certainly, over 60% of I won't say consumers, but people surveyed, are more likely to buy, but it's equally true to more likely to work for, right? If you're talking about employees, more likely to invest in a variety of these things. So there's a variety of it that kicks in, but, for most brands, more willing to do business, and it's well over 60%.
All right, authenticity.
So it's an important thing.
Authenticity, a scarce commodity, desirable commodity, particularly in the era of skepticism that we live within. So how do you actually go out and get yourself some authenticity?
Well, it's make the promise and live up to it is a big part of it. There's 7 key factors that consumers look at or the public looks at when they determine authenticity. We went through dozens of different factors, and 7 attributes globally stood out well beyond all the others. Protecting privacy, treating customer well, delivering on promises, quality of the ingredients, genuine and real, not artificial, acting with integrity, and communicating honestly. Those are the top 7 criteria that people hold a brand up to.
I get it.
What's interesting is that's globally.
We'll get into the Canada stuff in a minute, David. Let's talk globally for a second. So number 1 on your global list, Amazon.com.
Yeah.
So what has Amazon done right to be top in the world?
I think quite simply, they live up to their promises, or that's how consumers feel.
So
they promise they're going to deliver, and it shows up.
Yeah, it shows up at your door. Amazon.com, number 1 internationally. Apple, number 2. Microsoft, 3. Google, 4. PayPal, number 5. All in the electronic world, all internet-based. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is interesting. And where a lot of that comes from is the way we interact with brands. If you think of all these internet-based platforms, these are high-touch point brands, not one you drive by on the highway and occasionally wave at. If you think of Google, we're on that sucker every day. We consult it for everything in life. So it's a high-touch point, and that drives it on the scale.
All right, so you looked at 15,000 different consumers. You surveyed average folks in 15 different markets, including Canada.
Yeah.
And Canadians, interestingly, are a lot different from others. This surprised me. So brand authenticity, they ranked how important this is for your purchase interest. You found that in the UK was the 47%, France was 49%, Germany, brand authenticity to drive purchases, 55%. All right, where do we Canucks fit in?
Well, net is 92%. 92% of people in Canada report that if they feel it's authentic, it would impact their behavior, their attitudes.
And that means that they're more likely to purchase the product that drives...
Yeah, that's where we come to purchase, work with, work for.
All right, let's walk through the Canada's top 10 authentic brands then. David, so we talked about Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, PayPal, giant American companies. Yeah. Who ranks number one in Canada?
Well, this is where recognition hits authenticity. The two of them meet up. Number one's Tim Hortons.
There you go.
There you go.
And so let's.
I don't think a lot of people will be shocked by that, at least on a recognition standard. But of course, there's questions, then about all the other criteria.
I'm speaking with David Gordon. David is a managing partner at Cohn&wolfe Toronto, a global communications company that builds brands and corporate reputations on their Authentic 100 study. Now we're bearing down in Canada. So Tim Hortons highly recognizable. That's got to be on the citizenship test, right? One of the first words we say when we're kids. Take me to Timmy's, Mom and Dad. So, but it goes beyond that. It's not simply recognition. What are they doing right in terms of what? Quality? Service?
Well, yeah, and I think this is where it all factors in. We all know that Tim's has had a challenging year in its corporate head office with its new ownership, but surprisingly, it hasn't translated into their authenticity ranking. The authenticity ranking is looking at consumers' attitudes and, their business dealings, their interactions with. Is the coffee still good? Am I getting good counter service? Am I treated well? Do they live up to the promise? And that's essentially where it comes down to. And clearly Canadians feel that Tim's is living up to the promise still.
And were Canadians a tougher sell or an easier sell? Like, how did we actually stack up then to, say, Americans or Europeans? Like, are we more driven by authenticity or are we more skeptical?
Well, here's the thing with Canadians, and I have to admit I was even surprised to see this when it came out. The one question that really jumps out is the question of brands, are they open and honest? And how do Canadians feel about that? And Canadians, feel that, let me say the global average is 22%. Feel that brands are open and honest, but it's only 11% of Canadians. Half the global average. Americans are more positively oriented towards the open and the honesty of brands. The Chinese are way at the top of the ranking, but Canadians, they're at 40-something%. Canadians come in at 11%, half the global average.
That's crazy. I've guessed the opposite. I would have thought Canadians actually were more reliant, more open about brands, but half the European.
Yeah, but I think the thing is, for Canadians, we like to think we're easygoing and friendly and, fairly relaxed about all these things, but we're harboring a well-hidden cynicism. And so what that says to a brand in Canada is, don't take us for granted.
Yeah, you got to try harder. Well, look, Tim Hortons number one. So Google was number two in your survey of Canada's top 10 authentic brands. They were number 4 on the international list. And then here pops up another Canadian company, number 3 on your list, Canadian Tire.
Yeah.
So what are they doing right? Like I had some friends who worked at Canadian Tire. I had a view that they had they connect themselves very well to the Olympics. Remember that? They had a bit of a Canadiana feel. They do their charity where they help bring equipment to kids who come from low income families. Is that the stuff that's resonating? Like, what's Canadian Tire doing right?
It all contributes, and that very much is the stuff that's resonating. So you've got everything from the consumer delivery, if you will, the retail experience, right through to community delivery. Are they seen to be active and engaged members of the community? These factor in as well, and they won't factor in the same way for each brand. But Tim Hortons and Canadian Tire both have those elements in common. They're both strong community players.
So number 1 in Canada, Tim Hortons. 2, Google. 3, Canadian Tire. We just discussed. Number 4, no surprise to me, having 2 young daughters, Disney. Number 4 in Canada. And they do. I agree. I like all these companies so far. I'm not checking out on either. 5 is Amazon. And then here we come to the next major Canadian brand. We wonder if those in the Bell Talk Radio Network have guessed the next big Canadian brand for authenticity. Tim Hortons, Canadian Tire. Number 3 is David Gordon.
Number three is the third Canadian. Sorry, it's WestJet.
WestJet.
Yeah, WestJet is the third.
I think I might have guessed that. I don't know. I should have played this game before I looked. I cheated. I looked at your survey. I like WestJet.
Sorry,
you know why?
I was reading all the names. So
you know what I like about WestJet? They have fun in their job. They actually look like they're happy that you're on the plane and not like some scene from Con Air we're going to cut their throat, right?
That's something else they've got going. I remember every brand's unique. It's got its own character. WestJet has a personality.
All right, David Gordon, people can see this, the Authentic 100, online from Cohn and Wolfe. Appreciate you being on the Tim Hudak Show.
My pleasure, Tim. My pleasure. My wife has a question for you before I go.
Oh, shoot, I got 20 seconds.
When are you getting socks?
I got my talk socks. I got my own socks. I'll talk to Ben Dixon about that. He'll buy them, hopefully. All right. By the way, Campbell's Shoppers Drug Mart also on the top 10 for Canadian brand authenticity. All right, that's it. That's all. Time to go home to see my lovely daughters, Miller, Maitland, my wife, Debbie. It has not been an easy week on the personal side. Looking forward to seeing them a nice dinner tonight, putting the girls to bed, and Daddy reads them a story. Folks, thanks very much. I want to thank Dave Gordon from Cohn and Wolfe, Nick Nanos from Nick Nanos Research being part of the program, the callers, the listeners, the texters. Always a lot of fun. You can follow me at Tim Hudak, and this is broadcast through iHeartRadio News Talk 1010. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Next week, by the way, himself, Patrick Brown, coming on the program to talk about his platform, the People's Guarantee. It's 5:57.